Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from, and welcome to Guide to Ultimate Efficiency with Microsoft Flow. As you can see, I've crossed out the name Microsoft Flow now because Microsoft has updated the name of this tool to Power Automate. Power Automate is really a more accurate term for what Microsoft Flow does, and we're going to go through some examples today. I am Jenny Ward. I am a senior PPM specialist at PPM Works. You can reach me at jenny.ward@ppmworks.com or connect with me on LinkedIn under JNW Design. I'd love to virtually meet you online, so please feel free to do that. I've been in IT for many years now. I decided with this webinar to take out the number of years now because I'm always so mortified by, by just how high and with each passing year inaccurate that previous number was. But I really love turning problems into solutions. I'm super enthusiastic and nerdy about all the tools that we get to use in the Office 365 suite, and I love sharing it with clients to share new tips and tricks. So I hope you will get some benefit from that today. PPM Works, my company is, or the company I am at, I should say, it's not mine, but I'm glad to be a part of it. We are a Microsoft Gold PPM partner. We exclusively focus on Microsoft Project, SharePoint, Power BI, and Office 365. And the thing that's great about that exclusive focus, as we call it, is that Office 365 umbrella is just getting bigger and bigger every year. And Flow is a really good example of that, Power Automate. And the integration of the tools is just phenomenal. So you can use all of these things that come with your Office 365 license to help make your work more effective and more efficient. Your success is our success, and so we're really happy to always receive satisfied client references. We've performed many trainings and implementations, over 250 implementations, and we deliver dozens of industry presentations, including at the Microsoft Project Conferences and Project Summits, as well as the PMI conferences. We host these webinars every couple of weeks. Sometimes we take a break across the holiday season. So we're going to be doing that. This is the last webinar of the year. However, we'd love to hear from you about the ideas and information you'd like to learn more about. So please feel free to email us at info@ppmworks.com if you have any suggestions for webinars. We'd love to hear from you. Our past webinars can be found on our YouTube channel. We all do webinars. We all have different areas of expertise. I have a few previous webinars on Power BI and Flow that I'll point you to at the end of this webinar. And like I said, if you have any ideas for new ones, please feel free to reach out to us. Today's agenda is going through a flow overview, a high-level overview, and then we are going to be going through the templates that are available. The thing that's great about Flow is that it's really designed for people who are not developers at all. And the reason for that is to broaden the audience, obviously. You know, I have many colleagues who are fantastic developers and can do everything directly in C# and JavaScript and so forth. I have very minimal skill with that kind of code. I can get by is the best description of that. But I have really taken to Flow because it's kind of the right balance of you use a little bit of code with a UI that's fantastic and very self-explanatory. Many of the templates, as you'll see today, simply create the entire flow for you, and all you need to do is put in specific information. For instance, SharePoint paths and email addresses, connect them to your accounts, and then the flow runs automatically. So we'll go through those. And then finally, we'll just talk about some tips and tricks. You'll kind of see those throughout the demonstration. So we are ready to move on to that demo. So this is the home page for Power Automate, previously Microsoft Flow. You'll see that right on this homepage, you have the featured template collections. So if you are a sales organization, as most companies like us are, you have a sales department looking to get your product out there. There are many templates that can help you with your sales team, automatic integration with apps like Salesforce, for instance. Templates that keep you informed and on the go. This is going to be the kind of things that's going to show alerts in different applications like Microsoft Teams and Outlook, using Flowbots in Teams and so forth. Templates that improve productivity. We're going to be looking at a couple of those today to automatically save items, automatically alert you. Software development for my colleagues I was speaking of earlier. These are things that are going to help with agile projects to keep team members alerted of what their next tasks are. And streamlining and improving HR. You can see that the list goes on. So you can scroll through this list here, lots of different templates, okay? You can also see if you know kind of what category you're looking for here. Oh, I want to do a flow that's going to involve SharePoint. I'm going to maybe create a SharePoint item. Or if I want to send an email automatically with Office 365 Outlook. These are the popular areas that you can browse through, okay? What I recommend for you, and this is the way that I started, is you literally go through and you start creating flows, and then you either save them and turn them off so they don't automatically run, or you just play with them. You make sure that you can save them without any errors. That shows you you've successfully created a flow, and then try it out. That's going to be the best way to learn, and I highly recommend it. I am a click it till you break it kind of person, and I really recommend that for learning, okay? Over here on the left-hand panel, you can see it's your standard quick launch kind of bar. We've got the home page here, which is where I am. When I go to my flows, you can see that I have many flows in here. This is a really good example of, see how all of these are dim? That is because these are turned off. I can turn them back on if I want to, but I've got them turned off just because I tried them out. I don't want to use them right now, but I can always go back to them in the future and look either to look at how I did something, if I want to recreate something, or if I want to update it and then turn it back on, I can do that. There's no harm in having these listed here and turned off. Under my flows is where simply mine, that is to say, I am the only one that has permission or control over those flows. However, we have team flows that are shared with other members of my team. You can see this one. We were trying to create planner tasks with attachments on our sales support channel. You can see I was trying to improve upon it, so I changed the name of one of them just so my colleagues, Jock and Scott, would understand, okay, this is the one that Jenny's working on, don't touch this one. However, I'm still sharing it with them. And those are all shared with other members of the team so that they can access those as well. Like in Power BI and on reports and on applications, you can change the membership level or the sharing level. So I can have someone else set as an owner, or I can just have someone else set as a viewer. That's up to you. So if we go back to my flows, you can see here I've got this whole list. But what we're going to do now is we're going to create, okay? There's two different places where we can create flows here. We can go to templates and start from a template. And what I love about this, which I think is the best feature of this page, is that these tiles are in descending order by popularity. Okay, so you can see this one with, I looked at it this morning, I thought it was 31,000, but no, it's 317,149 creations currently. Maybe by the end of this webinar, it will go up to 150. But this is how many users have used this template, because clearly it's something that is really desired and needed. So this is going to allow for Office 365 email attachments to automatically be saved to OneDrive for Business, okay? So we're gonna go into this template and I'll show you what it looks like. Now what happens when you first go into the template As you can see, it will first try to make the connections. You can see that my email address that I don't mind hiding from you guys is already being used here to connect both to my Office 365 Outlook and OneDrive for Business. And then I'm simply going to create flow. While that's creating, we just wait for the page to refresh. And as you can see, we've now gone to the details view of this particular flow, okay? Save Office 365 email attachments to OneDrive for Business. Now you can see, here's a little tip and trick built into the webinar. This has added a 2 to the end of it. The reason it's done that is because I already had a flow by that name. And so it's going to put a 2 on the end of this so that they won't overwrite one another, okay? Now you might think, okay, what do I need to do to edit this flow? Well, I'll tell you 2 things. Number one, there is an edit button here on the top left of the screen, but this particular flow and this template is already done, okay? So the next time that I get an email with an attachment, it is automatically going to save it to the folder that's been created. Now let's go into this and let's see if actually in it, you can see as I'm clicking on each of these boxes, they're closing and opening. When you first open the flow to edit it, they're all collapsed just so that you can see the full picture of the flow, okay? But you click on them to attach them. What the settings are here is that whenever something goes to my inbox, these are blank. So essentially this is saying to anyone, from anyone, where the importance is normal, okay? I can set that to any, so that if any attachment comes through with a high priority, a high importance, if this were set to normal, it would not apply to those that are high. So if I want it to be all encompassing, I want to switch it to any. Has an attachment, we want to set that to yes, because the whole idea is that we want to save those attachments, and those are the emails that we're looking for. And we do want to include the attachments, okay? So should the response of this trigger include the attachments, meaning these are the actions that are going to be connected to this trigger. The pattern of the structure of the flow is the triggers on top, the actions are on the bottom, okay? So that's saying, yep, make sure that these are accessible to the actions later in this flow. And if you had a particular item that was always coming in, for instance, a report that comes through in as an attachment, and it always had the same subject line, and those were the only attachments that you wanted to save here to your particular OneDrive folder you're going to create, you could add that subject filter here. Okay, if your Power BI monthly report is coming through there, part of my typo, then those would be the only attachments that this trigger would look for. Okay, but we're going to leave that blank for now, okay? And then we're going to expand this. We're going to go to attachments. You see, this is going to be capturing the items that I just referred to up here that has attachments. This is dynamic content that's automatically pulling from the previous trigger in the flow. So once you click in this field, this side window here is automatically going to pop up, and you're going to be able to see the different available dynamic content that's in here. Okay. So now the fun part, okay, we're going to set the folder path, okay, so that's the folder into which the attachments are going to be saved in OneDrive, okay. So if we look here at the picker, you can see the root is here, and then you can see the various folders that I have created, in this case, email attachments from Flow, okay. So when I look here at my OneDrive folder here on my computer, I have this minimized intentionally just so you can't see all the contents, but here is my email attachments from Flow folder. Okay, it's got a few things in it already. You can see 34 megabytes. So that's got a few attachments that I've tested. Now we've got a condition, okay? And you can see if the create file, if it has been created equals true, okay, then we're going to save that attachment here. We're going to create a file retry. And if there's no attachment, nothing will happen. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This particular part of this template is a little bit more complex. Okay, you can see there's some code in here with this equals. You can see what the actual code is up here. Action outputs, create file, status code 409. I am no question, I would not know how to create that off the top of my head. I'd need to look it up. Other coders would know how to do that. The whole idea is that you don't need to do that because the template has already created that code for you. Okay, that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of the templates. Designed for end users like you and I who are maybe not full-time coders, can get by a little bit, but the UI does all of this magic, as I call it, for you. Okay, it's going to put those conditions in. It's going to say, okay, if there's no attachment, do nothing. That's what it wants it to check for. Okay, so once we save this, there's a flow checker up here. Okay, I recommend that because then it's going to show you if there are any errors or warnings. If there are errors, this will be expandable. The errors will be very handy and very clear, and you will be able to search for those errors anywhere you like. On Bing would be my recommendation. Okay, so you're going to be able to find out what exactly is wrong. It's going to point you exactly in the direction of what element of the flow needs assistance. Okay, so it's going to say on new email, it will show you that's where the error is located, or apply to each attachment on the email. It's going to show you that as well. Another tip and trick here, if you're creating a template from blank, these are going to come through with very generic kinds of connections. This will simply say condition 1, the next one will say condition 2. You can rename those. I highly recommend that you rename them to exactly what is in that step of the flow. For the reason for flow checker, you know exactly what you're looking at. And also, if you're creating a complex flow and you're going back to it 6 months later, I don't know if you guys have a better memory than I do, but I often will have to go and remind myself, okay, why did I structure this way? Okay, now I see what the structure is. And when those are all collapsed, it's going to be very easy to say, okay, on new email, I would even call it when I get a new email with an attachment. And then the next one I'd call, save that attachment to a OneDrive folder if conditions are met. You can do it as simply and as clearly as that, if you like. Okay, so that's one example of the Save Office 365 attachments to OneDrive for business. Okay, let's look at some of the other templates. Now, as I mentioned, one of my specialties is Power BI. I love Power BI so much, almost as much as I love Flow. And so you can have them work together. We have a previous webinar chapter, both chapters 1 and 2, that my colleague Kieran and I did together, called Power App Integration with Power BI. And what's great about that is that, you know, Power BI reports, if you have a monthly status report or dashboard that you're sharing with clients, it relies on the report viewer going to the report, looking at the report every morning, every week, however often they want to look at it, and just seeing what the status of that report is, okay? But you can automate those reports. Say you have a particular flag item that you want to draw attention to, like project managers that are not filling in information they should, then you can set a trigger, a threshold on those reports, so that when that threshold is met, for instance, less than 20 statuses out of 200 projects in your list, then it can automatically set a flow alert, a Teams alert or an Outlook alert, an email, to let those project managers know that they need to fill in their statuses. Okay, so that takes you, at least temporarily, out of the equation. You don't need to ride your team to get that information in there. The flow will do that to you automatically. Okay, so if we went into this, send an email to any audience when a Power BI data alert is triggered, we're going to set that template, and you'll see it'll get the connections ready. You'll see the green check marks when those connections are made. Now, just a tip here, when you first do this, you may need to set those connections. That is to say, you may need to go here and you may need to add a new connection and set it to your Office 365 account that has the Power BI license. I've already done that, so that connection is already established in my environment, but it's just simply a matter of signing into with your Office 365 credentials to establish these connections. Okay, so we'll click continue. And then just like before, you can see that this template automatically creates, okay? Now the other template, really nothing needed to be touched on that template at all. Once we created it, it was ready to go. This one, however, needs us to select the alert ID that we want to track, okay? Once you have created a thresholds alert in Power BI on the same environment that we're on here, on the same instance, those will automatically appear here. You'll see it's loading. And then here is the one that I have already created. Overall status fields have been left blank with an obnoxious exclamation point at the end, okay? So that's the alert that we're going to select, okay? And then the only other thing we need to do is decide to whom we are going to send this, okay? In this case, I'm going to just put this email address here, okay, info@ppmworks.com. You can see that once I did that, I'm going to do it one more time just so you can see what happens. It will auto detect that account, okay? See, when I hover on it, now I can select that. It's going to rename it to info, so you're not going to see the full email address anymore. You're just going to see the display name, okay? But that's the account where you guys, the homework assignment for you is to email us and let us know what webinars you're interested in going forward, okay? So we set that to info. The alert title is going to be this, what I call the alert, okay? And it's going to say that's been triggered, or you can leave triggered out of there. You can change all of this text. You can see that this is putting in HTML tags so that these will come through. This is going to be a new paragraph. It's going to come through in strong font, AKA bold font. It's going to be big and bold. It's going to be a list item here. So all of this can be changed. Okay, this is just going to show the structure. And you can also add the link here. See how it's automatically going to go to the report on which this alert resides. So it's going to say go to the report, and then it's going to connect to the title of that report with the URL, okay? All of that coming from the trigger. Now see how before we only had one dynamic content list item here, but in this particular trigger, we have a lot more. We have what the threshold is, what the alert title is. This is what I have called it. Is the alert triggered? That's a true, false. Has it happened or has it not? And what the title URL is to the report. URL linking to the dashboard tile where the alert is set up. Once you're doing that, once you're done with this, now we've edited this a little. We've added an email address and we've selected the alert. So let's run the flow checker now. Okay. Now the flow checker worked fine this time. Okay. So I'm going to select this. See how I've turned this off now? Now look what happens when I click flow checker now. Okay. See how as I told you, when a data-driven alert is triggered, okay, it's showing exactly the element of the flow that has the problem. And then it's telling you exactly what the problem is. Oh, you forgot to put in alert ID. Okay. So if we did this and we click here and we put this back, and then if we take this email address out, okay, now let's see if it's smart enough to catch this one. Yep, see how the red dot appears again? Send an email, so it's in the send an email flow component. 2 is required, okay? So I highly encourage you to keep your eye on this red dot at the top of the screen. It's going to tell you almost immediately if you've forgotten something or if the syntax of something isn't quite right. Let's change this to me. I can type. And then it's going to find me. Now if we do flow checker, we should have 0 errors. Okay, looks good. So that would be our next one if we're going to send an email to any audience. Again, if you want to get specific instructions on how to create those data alerts, you can watch our webinar series, Power App Integration with Power BI. You can find that on our YouTube channel under PPM Works. So let's go back to home. I should get a warning. Yep, I was just going to show you that when you go to leave the page and you haven't saved the flow, it will give you a warning, okay? I will tell you that sometimes, even after you have saved the flow, you can see it's saved now. If I click back, sometimes you'll still get that warning, okay? As long as you're sure you've saved the flow, you can continue despite that warning. Sometimes it just takes 10 or 15 seconds to catch up. So we went through the list of my flows here, okay, the my flows that are just my own versus the team flows that are shared with others. We went through different template options, okay, where you can see the most popular ones at the top of the list here. All right, I encourage you to play with those. Now there's just, what if we just want to create one from blank? You don't really find exactly what you're looking for. We're not actually going to go through creating a blank one here, but I just want to show you the structure of this page. So as stated, there's 3 ways to make a flow. There's the start from blank. There's the templates with top pick templates here on the top. So this is the same thing that we just saw, just in a different screen. You can also look at the different categories here. Okay, so if there's approvals, if there's email templates that you want to use, productivity templates, you can scroll through all of these. Calendars. I was asking some colleagues this morning on what kind of things I should demonstrate today, and someone suggested the ability to set teams to do not disturb when certain criteria are met. I can tell you that that action is not yet available, but every month there are new actions that are available and new triggers that are available that will allow connections to teams and specific control of those tools. Somebody suggested that when anyone thinks that they want to bother me with a meeting, can I just set my status to do not disturb? I don't think that it's ever going to be able to read minds, but we are getting pretty frighteningly close to that. So I encourage you to check back often for the new things that have been added to the environment here. So the start from blank will show that there's 4 different kinds of blank flows that you can go through. And one reason I think that this is a kind of a good screen is it can be a little bit confusing. Well, what is automated versus instant? Okay, so automated would mean it's triggered by a designated event. Our example would be when that data threshold was met in the Power BI report. That's the designated event. Or when an attachment is received on an email sent to my inbox. Those would be the triggers, okay? An instant flow is you're triggering it. You're actually going to the flow. There's a UI where you can say, set all of these values in SharePoint to this. So you manually run the flow with a button. Looks like a mini Power App, okay? Then there's a scheduled flow. So say once a day, you want to check a SharePoint library for new information that's been added to it, or a list where items have been updated. Rather than not triggering all day each time it happens, you could instead have it just run once a day so that every morning when users come in, they're getting their alert for the changes that happened in the previous 24 hours. And then there's the business process flow, a little bit more I'd say complex, I guess is maybe too strong a word, but guides you through the multi-step process of when this happens, the trigger this, and then when this happens, trigger this. So that's going to just structure the flow a little bit differently for the blank template. Okay, so we've got templates down here. Finally, we've got start from connectors. That's if you know the tool that you want to work with, but you don't necessarily have a sense of what you want to do with it. It's kind of in between the template and the blank where you're putting the connectors in there already. So you know you want to do a blank template because you can't find a template that's going to do exactly what you want to do, but you want it to involve Power BI. So you select the connector Power BI, and that's automatically going to put that connector into your flow. You saw when I created those templates initially, you saw the connectors on the bottom where I pointed out this is where it's going to sign you into Office 365. If it prompts you to do that, you just sign in. Those are the connectors, okay? So the Power BI connector would automatically be put in to your blank flow. So that is the overview of Flow, AKA, or now called Power Automate. I encourage you for sure, go into the environment, click wildly, click until you break it. You're not going to break anything. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to have a flow that's going to send emails once every 5 minutes. And then if that happens, all you do is you go in here and you say, oh, sorry, gang. And then you go and you just simply turn it off. Okay. So you can do that for any one of these flows, or if they are already turned off, then you can turn them back on. Okay. You've got the edit link here if you decide you want to go in and you want to change the account that these are coming into, or if you want to customize them even more, you can go back and edit them, and then you can save your changes. You've always got Flow Checker here on the top to check your work for you, which is great. You have integrations with Power BI, with Teams, with Outlook, with all the tools that you're using all day, every day. And it can really help you become more efficient. You know, just to save a few clicks every day is a real time saver. So I encourage you to check that out. We have Microsoft project workshops. We do free workshops with PDUs to qualified customers. The PPM workshops are fun. I can tell you that I've been to several of them that we've run. We always have a good time with our clients and with our guests. And so they can be delivered in person at your office or at a Microsoft office if you're located near one. Typical length, depending on the agenda that you have, is between 1 and 4 hours. They're designated for 5 to 10 participants and can be customized to be directly relevant to your specific business needs. We usually will just have a 15-minute or half an hour call with you ahead of time to talk about what your business needs are, how you think that Microsoft PPM products can help you and your team, along with Office 365 tools. And we just love to help you, as it shows down here with Race Car Driver, turbocharge your productivity. As mentioned, if you have any questions regarding this webinar, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Power Automate, aka Microsoft Flow, or Power BI reports, or Project Online, Project for the Web, then please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. We welcome any and all feedback. You can reach us at info@ppmworks.com for any additional questions. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you're having a great day and a productive day, and we look forward to talking to you soon.